Computer Science A, Unit 5, Writing Classes, Lesson 2, Constructors. In this lesson, you're going to define instance variables for the attributes to be initialized through the constructors of a class, and you'll understand that objects are mutable. Let's try writing our own object creating class. You're going to follow the directions or the instructions. I say below, it's below in your notes there to create the class. You want to create a class named swim event that simulates a person swimming in a 25-yard pool for an event. You will build a swim event and keep track of its position in completing the event. So let's take a look at this. Okay. You want to create public class swim event. You're going to have some variables. You're going to have a default constructor, a parameter constructor, and then methods. Swim, that's void. Okay, it's going to increment the yard swim by 25 each time it's called, or swim yards, which will increment it by however many yards you pass it. And then Boolean is event completed. Is the event done, true or false? Read the direction over here and do your best at writing this class. I've started it there for you. So pause the video, and this could take a little bit of time. Okay? So pause the video and come back when you're ready. So, did you try it? Remember, if you're not trying this, then it's a problem. You've got to try it, and it's going to take time. This could take 10-15 minutes to go through and remember how to do all this. Let's first look at the variables. You have 3 variables. The first one is a string, and you're going to call it event name. It keeps track of the event name. This can be freestyle, breaststroke, butterfly, or backstroke. Event yards is going to be an int, and yard swam is going to be an int. Okay, let's take a look. And remember that this is a class, so we want them all to be private. So it's pretty straightforward. Private string event name, private int event yards, private int yard swam. That's it. Remember that when you're declaring them, you're not initializing them. Now the constructors, your default constructor. This one, you're just going to set the event name to freestyle, the event yards to 50, and the yards swam to 0. So here it is. Public swim event. You don't pass it any information. So all you do is you set event name, event yards, and yard swam to the values specified. Again, this should not be hard. All right. Now, parameter constructor sets event name and event yards to the values of 2 parameters passed. Yard swam still gets set to 0. So here, you're passing it 2 things. You set A, you set B, and you could have used something besides A and B. Okay, remember, you do not want to use the same name that's up here. That's not good. But you could also call it event and yards or something like that if you wanted to be more descriptive. So we've done a lot of this together. I have no idea. So now, what about the methods? Well, void swim is going to increment the yard swam by 25 each time it's called. It does not allow yard swam to exceed the event yards. Well, the event yards is 50, so here's your, whoops, here is, if I come back up, your method. You call swim, you don't pass it any information, and it says if yard swam plus 25 is greater than event yards, yard swam is set to event yards. So you can only swim the maximum. If you're swimming a 50-yard event, you can't swim 100. Else, yard swam plus equals 25. What about void swim int yards? This increments the yard swam by the parameter is passed. It, again, does not allow the yard swam to exceed the event yards. So you're going to do the same thing you did up here, just instead of adding by 25, you're going to add by the amount that was passed. So here, a little bit of a preview there, you pass it yards, and you're going to add those yards as long as yards swam plus those yards do not exceed event yards. Okay? Public Boolean returns true if the yards swam is equal to the event yards. If it is, then that means your event is completed. If it's a 1,000 yard swim, once you've swum 1,000 yards, you've completed your event. So if yards swam equals event yards, true, otherwise it stays false. And here's the ending curly brace for your class. Well, fantastic. And if you need to, go back and rewind to make sure that you put all that in there. Now that your swim event class is created, let's trace through the following code to see how it works. Public class tournament. Okay, this is our project. Public static void main. String args. We're not going to worry about that right now. Swim event. I'm going to instantiate a swim event and I'm going to call it Jessie. Great. So here I have Jessie and I'm not passing it anything. So remember, our default constructor said that if I don't pass it anything, then Jessie's swimming freestyle, it's 50 yards, and we always start this out at 0. I'm also going to instantiate swim event Lola. And Lola, whoops, down here, I'm going to fix this guy. Lola is going to swim breaststroke. So instead of being freestyle, hers will be breaststroke, and her event yards is going to be 200. She still didn't swim any of those yards yet. Now, system.out.println Jessie.event completed. Event completed is going to go out and say, did Jessie swim 50 yards yet? No. So this is going to return false. So then we're going to say Jessie.swim. What's going to happen there? Remember that every time you call swim and you don't pass it anything, it assumes that you have swam the length of the pool, which is 25 yards. So yards swam, you're going to add 25 to. Lola is going to swim 50. Okay, I come down here, and if I add 50 to the number of yards swam, is that less than 200? Yes. So Lola can swim 50 yards. Then Jessie is going to swim 30. I come back up here. 30 plus 25 is 55. So that doesn't work. So remember, in our code, I'm just going to make this 50. She can't go through the wall. Then Lola's going to swim another 50. 50 plus 50 is 100, which is still less than 200. So Lola has swum 200, or has swam 100 yards. She still has some to go. System.out.println Jessie.event completed. Is the yards swam equal to the event yards? Yes. So true. Lola.event completed. Is 100 equal to 200? No. So that will be false. It's not too hard, right? And notice that you don't have to know how any of this works. You don't have to know the inside. It's encapsulated. There's a level of abstraction. Jessie swims, she swims yards. You don't know how it keeps track of it. You just tell how many it swum, and it figures it out for you. Fantastic, right? This ends lesson 2.